Hey campers, George here. As you saw in the introduction, back in the South 40, playing by the fireplace and my little workbench I have here with the two logs. chilly day. Temperature's about 32 and yep, looks like winter's settling in here. Although we haven't had any snow for a couple of days, and the snow we did have seems to have melted. And I'll show you here, you can see there's still some remains left, making for a chilly day. But I didn't want to spend it in the cottage, so I thought I needed to get out. So the quick and easy way is here, right here in the South 40. And while I'm out here, I thought I would practice some knife skills. It's something that I don't do enough of. I think when it comes to being in the outdoors and camping and things like that, we're always looking for things to try out, to do. We play a lot. For me, the biggest thing I do is I whittle wood, just like this piece that you saw in the beginning there. And watching videos the other day on YouTube, came across a video that showed a way to test knives as well as yourself and to practice knife skills. I do want to say something. Always practice safety first when doing anything with a cutting tool. That would be an axe, a hatchet, a knife, a saw, anything like that. You have to be careful and practice safety first. First off, when you're out there chopping, cutting, that sort of thing, or dealing with a fire or anything like that where it's hot, sharp objects, that sort of thing, first thing you should be doing is gloves. Have a pair of good sturdy gloves. Now these are just some leather gloves that I think I got at a local hardware store, and I use them for everything. If I'm cooking, when I pick up a pot, things like that, I make sure I have gloves on. You just don't want to burn yourself. The same thing goes when dealing with a knife. You want to have a nice sharp knife. So with that in mind, be careful. A couple of things you should know. Never ever cut towards your body. Never ever use your body as a brace when cutting or trimming or doing anything like that with wood. Find something to brace the wood on besides your own body. Now that we have that out of the way, what you saw in the intro was me cutting this piece of wood. And you say, what's that for? Well, if you've watched my channel for a while, I am a knife cutting tool fiend. I can't walk past a shiny, sharp object. I have to get it. If I see something that catches my eye, I have to get it. Not because I need it, but because I want to look at it, feel it, and play with it. And like I said, one of the ways I like to play is to whittle. I have a lot of these knives and I use them for whittling. I've tried different things with them, and even doing my reviews, I do a very basic test on them. As I was saying, I saw a video, and the video showed making a stick like this and using this to practice some bushcraft basic skills. And I thought, what a great way to test a knife as well. I mean, after all, the majority of work we do with a knife is preparing wood. We make things, certainly in bushcraft, something I don't do enough of and which I'm hoping to change. I need to start learning more bushcraft stuff. And it would be a good thing when you're out camping or whatever to practice, because you never know when you might need that skill. Making shelters, making a fireplace, a cooking station, something like that. All these knife skills that you practice are going to help you with that. Now, I'm not going to review a knife. I'm simply going to be using my Condor Bushlaw, which is the only real bushcraft knife I own. Most of my knives are camp knives or everyday carry general purpose knives. This is more of a bushcraft knife. And I thought, I'm going to give it a try. What a good idea to get out of the cottage and practice. some knife skills. Personally, I would just call this a test stick. One where I whittle away at and make some little shapes on it and that sort of thing, with nothing in particular in mind. The shapes or the cutting I'm doing on it are just something that amuses me, and it's whatever I'm thinking at the time is what I would whittle on it. Well, I thought I need to change that and use it to actually practice true bushcraft chores, types of notches in particular. And a stick like this will work pretty well. Although this is a really dry, hard piece of wood, one of the reasons you want a little bit greener and not as dry as this is, as you saw in the beginning there I was peeling the bark off, and you can see it leaves behind the small thin inner bark, and it's kind of hard to clean off without having to actually cut into the wood, and I didn't want to do that. It's typically, if you get the right piece of wood, you can strip that bark off in long, thin pieces and actually use that to tie up whatever you're making in the bush. I call this just a test stick. I forget the true name for it. I think what they call it in bushcraft is a try stick, as in trying it out, trying out your knife, trying some skills out, trying to do different things with it. And it makes sense. I just refer to it as my test stick. This is a good fun project to work on. There is a bunch of notches that you can do on a stick. You can practice on while out, maybe camping, sitting around the campfire in the evening, just enjoying the fire. Grab yourself a stick, try it out. So let's start off with that. The first thing you want to do, obviously, is clean off your stick. Just like I showed you in the beginning, you want to get it clean and nice and straight. And you want a longer stick. And the reason you want a longer stick is you're going to put a bunch of notches on it. Do not cut the stick. Keep it long like this for a number of reasons. One, it's easier to handle. If you've got a short piece and you're trying to trim off the end here, it's really hard to hold on to a small piece. So keep it long, and when you start on it, start so that you can work on it. You want to give yourself a little bit of room to be able to hold. So the first notch I'm going to do, you want to give it about the size of your hand and start the notch there. Gives you enough to hold on to it to go this way. This way you've got no problem, you've got all the stick to handle. So let's try out the first thing. First thing I want to do is just square up a bit of the stick. The square cut, it's a rougher cut, you're going to get bigger curls out of it, and good for tinder. So we'll start with that, and then we'll go on to the next step, which is rounding off, which gives you smaller, thinner, more curly pieces of wood for your fire as tinder. So I have my stick here, and first off, obviously you need a good base to work on. You want something to be able to brace the stick on so that you can work on it and stop it from sliding away, which will help. And it certainly makes it easier to work on, of course, whatever knife you're going to be using to practice your skills. Here, like I said, I'm using the bush law. So the first thing I want to do is, like I said, is make a square. I want to square this piece of wood off. I just want square sides. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to slice it off until I get it to where I want it, how thick I want it. Now, the size of the wood doesn't matter. You can use a small, thin piece. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you don't start too close to the end, because then I won't be able to hold it here. So give yourself enough room for that. So I'm going to start, and there just happens to be a notch right there, which makes it difficult, but it gives me a good mark to start on. And all I'm going to do is just make a mark all the way around here. You want to make it work with something that's about a little bit longer than the depth of your blade. So that's how wide my blade is. I want to be a little bit wider than that. So I'm going to go there, and the reason for that is, I will show you now, as soon as I marked it off, is that to get that perfect square across here, I need to be able to get my full blade into that gap. So that's why I make it that big. So for first notch, about a hand's breadth away, and then mark out a little bit more than just the width of your blade. And then you're gonna score these with your knife and make them fairly deep. How deep? Well, as deep as you want to go, but you got to be careful that you don't go too deep. You don't want to lose the strength of the wood. So I'm just going to make a flat feather basically. And you notice I'm going that way. Don't try and force the knife this way. Actually slice with it. So you can do that and get a curl out of it like that. And you want to make sure that when you do it, you're keeping a fairly flat surface, because remember we're trying to make a square. So there you can see I've started to flatten it out there. I've got the start of my first flat edge. Then I'm going to turn the stick around and do the same thing again. And here you can see it's a little bit bigger than my knife. So now I can get the full flat edge of the knife in there so that you can get it nice and square and tidy it up. And you can see I've got curls. They're fairly coarse, heavy curls. And that's simply because I'm doing a wide surface that I'm getting into. Now that's about as deep as I want to go. There you can see what I mean. And then what you're going to do is you want to turn 180 degrees and repeat the process. Then you're going to go 90, do it again, 180, and do it again to get your square piece out of it. And you can see it's formed the two sides there. Ideally you want the depths to be exactly the same. Now I'm going to, and looking at it now, I need to clean it up before it actually looks like, if you look at it, I didn't do it nice and square, but you get the idea. It's a knife, so knife skill, and of course you can get yourself some really good fire starter tinder out of it. Next thing you want to do is we're going to go with the round version on that. And what I want to do is I want to give myself some room, so I'm just going to move down a little bit further, keeping in mind that you've lost a lot of the strength on this wood by doing this. I made it pretty thin and it's weakened the whole stick. So be careful you don't put any pressure on it, you're probably going to break it. So I want to give myself another hold here. So I'm going to start about, just mark it quickly. Down trim is that you're going to work all the way around as you go, and same motion again, you're going to be slicing, you're not going to be pushing. Actually slice and it'll give you a better curl. You can see how well it curls there, and I'm spinning the rod as I go. Just like that. And keeping it round like that. And I'm forming a little feather stick group here. And you can cut them off. And clean them up. And here's where you can see the difference in the curls. Here are the round ones, and look how wide the square one is, yet the round ones are small. Both make good tinder. These will burn quicker. So you want to keep doing that until you get to the size of the stick you want, the diameter. And you can just keep working at it. And that's about as deep as I want to go on this stick. What I'm going to do now is do it on this side. The problem I'm going to have is I have a little knot right there. That's going to be a challenge, but we will overcome. And you can see that's where the knot was, right there, that little spot there to work through there. It makes it hard, and it actually on both sides. So now we have your square and your round, and a bunch of fire tinder that you can use in the morning after playing by the fire to start your breakfast. So those are two very basic skills that you can work on. It's a way to practice feathering, and of course while you do that you're making yourself some tinder for your fire. Very basic skills, just getting used to the knife, getting the feel of the knife and how it cuts and things like that. 3 different things you can practice with your knife when sitting around the bushfire at your camp. It's good for you to practice your knife skills, safety, and getting used to working with your knife to make certain things that you're going to need around the camp. Obviously, the 2 things that I use the most is a tent peg and a toggle. We'll get into that next. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. You know the story. Pretty sure I'll be back again soon. Hopefully get the stick finished and show you a couple of more notches. I'm learning. Hopefully you are as well. Just saying, I need to practice my knife skills. And what a good way to do it around the campfire when out camping. Just saying. Thanks for watching.